So now we've learned how to draw shapes, how to generate random numbers and use those numbers to draw shapes, as well as how to add interaction and if statement and all that. How do we make something move? How do we create a circle that can move around on the canvas? Let's do that. So what are some of the information we need in order to draw a circle? As we've been doing, we need x, I'll put 100 or maybe 200 just so that it's vertically horizontal, and y, maybe that I can put 100, and then the diameter b 50. And then with these variables, I can now draw the circle x, y, and d. So I have a circle. So what if I want to make the circle moving downwards? What we can do is inside of the draw function, we can simply add y equals to y plus 1. So what this does is for every frame, y is going to increase by 1, because when y is 100, started with 100, so y equal to y plus 1, what it does is first add that 1, so y becomes 101, and assign that value to y, so y becomes 101. And keep repeating, so y is going to keep increase the value, and that's how it's moving downwards. And similarly, if we add something like x equals to x plus 1, now it's going to move to the side. So that's how we can make the circle move. And but now, of course, it's not so interesting if the circle just moves out of the canvas. So how can we make the circle bounce? Let's duplicate this sketch and call this bouncing circle. That's where we will need to add if statement. So if this circle's position meets a certain condition, we will let it bounce. Let's try to write that. So if x, let's actually start with just one axis. So only y, right? So if y has gone outside the canvas, so if y is larger than the height of the canvas, we're going to change, move to the opposite direction. But now, because we kind of hard-coded that y is always going to move down, there's no way we can change that. So we need to create another variable. Let speed y equals to 1. So starting as moving down, speed y. And then when y is larger than the height, let's not worry about the radius for now. And then speed y equals to negative speed y. So essentially speed y changed to the opposite direction. So as soon as it reaches bottom, it switched to the opposite direction. But of course now, once it goes up, because we didn't have an if statement for that, it's going to go out of the canvas again. So now we can add another if statement. If y is smaller than 0, what happens? Again, we want to change y to the opposite speed of before. So let's wait for the circle to move all the way down. And now when it moves all the way to up, it's going to also bounce back. Yeah. But one thing you might notice is for if statement, no matter what condition, or between the two conditions, what happens is the same. It's always to change y to the opposite speed. So what we can do is actually combine the two if statements. So I'm going to delete this and add it here. So when y is larger than height, or that's with 2 bar, that's the or in the JavaScript language, and or y smaller than 0. And what this does is to provide two different conditions, and either one of them, when either one of them is true, we are going to run the code within the if statement. So either when y is larger than the height or when y is smaller than 0, we are going to let the circle bounce on the y-axis. So let's repeat that for the x. So now if x is larger than the width, or x is smaller than 0, let's change the direction of X. Oops, I meant X. Oh, of course, we also need it now moving to the horizontally. That's because we did not we did not actually use speed X. So now, if now the circle bounce both on the x-axis as well as the y-axis. And one way we can make this interesting, because right now it really, if you think about it, really bounce at the same path. So what we can do is to change the speed so that the horizontally and vertically, the speed is a little bit different. So I'm going to use 2 and 3. So now it's going to bounce at different locations. But how can I clearly see where it's bouncing? One thing we can do is to, like what we did before, we can move the background. I'm going to cut this and paste it inside of a setup. Now we can see the path of the circle. And since we have this path, one thing we can do is to add a little bit of color. And as a review, of course, we can use a random color. Let R equals to random 255. Let G equals to random 255. Let B equals to random 255. So of course we can use this random and then use fill to actually change this color of R, G, and B. Random color. And in fact, we can also disable the stroke with function no stroke. So now we're just seeing these colors. So maybe this is already interesting, but now the color seems too random, and maybe if you don't want random, one thing we can do is to let the color change as well. So instead of having RGB over here, I'm going to delete this, and at the very beginning, you can have let R equal to 0, let G equals to 0, and let B equal to 0. And then over here, so first of all, yeah, now it's black, but within the draw loop, what we can do is to let R equals to R plus 1, and G equals to G plus 1, and B equals to B plus 1. And now it's going to gradually become brighter, but now as soon as it becomes white, it doesn't come back. Then what do we do? And in fact, we can approach this very similarly to how we approach the bouncing circle. So we can let the color also kind of bounce. So once it reaches to the top, we can change the color back. So let's do that. So speed R equals to 1. Let speed G equal to 1. Let speed B equals to 1. And then change this to speed R, speed G, and speed B. And then we need to write those if statement like we did at the top. So if R is larger than 255, or when R is smaller than 0, we can change this direction of the speed. So R equals to negative speed R, and if G is larger than 255 or G is smaller than 0, then we invert the speed of G will be negative speed G, and then if B is larger than 255 or B is smaller than 0, then speed B equals to negative speed B. So now, as soon as it becomes white, it's almost the same as if it bounced to one wall, it bounced back, so the color changed back to black. And even though we're really not taking full advantage of the RGB value because we are changing them all at the same time. So that's why we are only seeing black and white. If we really want to add color, what we do is to make sure the speed is different. So first one is 1, and then 2, and then 3. So now RGB change at different speed, and that's how we can actually create a gradient out of those this bouncing circle. And furthermore, if we want to change another set of color, we can simply change that to 3, 2, 1, or essentially you can try any combination of the numbers, and then that will generate different colors, and you can kind of play around with it and try different colors, and also different speed as well. And this is kind of one way we can kind of we can generate this pattern with different speed, different RGB, and then different speed for the changing of the RGB. And again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please try it out. Maybe use this approach, apply it, and let more things, more parameters. You can let more parameters bounce around on canvas. And I can't wait to see what the kind of stuff you will come up with this method. And please share your creation in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.